Hey, in today's video, we are going to make Snickerdoodle cookies, which are amazing if you've ever had them. I make them a lot around the holidays, of course, but they're also a family favorite, so I make them quite a bit. I actually had a customer order them last week. She's pregnant and she was craving some Snickerdoodles. So we're gonna make the dough, super easy, no crazy ingredients, and then we're going to scoop it out so they're all somewhat even in shape and size. Roll them into a ball, roll them into some cinnamon sugar, and bake them. That's it. Snickerdoodles are so easy. And then I'm even going to tell you how you can freeze the dough that you haven't baked yet if you didn't want to bake them all at once. So follow along with me, and I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so I'm going to start with my unsalted butter, and I have 4 sticks of softened unsalted butter. You can technically put it in the microwave on defrost for a few seconds and keep rotating it, but sometimes you end up with the middle of your butter, like the middle of the stick of butter, being too melted, and that makes your cookie dough a little too soft, which means you have to refrigerate it before you can scoop it. So as you can tell, sometimes it's just not worth doing that. So I would suggest leaving it on the counter, like put it on the counter that morning if you're going to be making the dough that afternoon. You can even set it out the night before at room temperature on your countertop, and it'll be soft enough for when you go to use it. So here, I am adding in my granulated sugar, and I have 3 cups of granulated sugar, and I'm just doing that very slowly, and my mixer is on the lowest speed. I think it's just titled stir on my KitchenAid mixer because it will just fly back up at you. And then once it's all in there, I do turn the speed up a notch. Now, once I've turned that speed up, I'm going to let it mix for about 3 to 4 minutes, and it's on like medium-low, if depending on the mixer you have, what that's titled. I think mine's level 2 or 3. And once you let that run for a couple minutes, then you're going to add in the eggs. And you're going to do about 1 at a time. If 2 slip in at the same time, it's not the end of the world. I actually think here slowly in a minute, I dump in 2 eggs at once. But you're going to want a total of 4 eggs, and you want the entire egg. But I am mixing it on stir setting again on the lowest setting just to incorporate all the egg whites and egg yolks before adding any other ingredients. Okay, now after I've got my eggs incorporated, I have dropped down the bowl and I'm scraping it to the best of my ability. I'm such a firm believer in scraping down your mixing bowls several times, no matter what you're making, cookie dough, cake, pastries, whatever. So I'm scraping that down the best that I can before I bring it back up and continue to stir just to make sure I've gotten all the butter off of the bottom of that bowl. Okay, now I'm going to add all of my dry ingredients, and that is 5.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. So you're going to add that in very slowly because it will fluff out at you and puff out at you worse than the sugar did the first round. So really slow, the slowest setting on your mixer, and I'm just barely dumping a little bit in. If I was measuring it, I would say it'd be roughly 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup at a time. But I'm just doing that until it's all in there. I'm probably making a mess, but I have very little patience. So this is normally how I do it. And once it's all in there, you're going to see me scrape the bowl down and you'll see how much the dough has come together and really firmed up after adding in my flour and other dry ingredients. Okay, so there's my dough, and you can see how much stiffer it has become. And before I scrape it down off of the beater blade, I am actually scraping the bottom of the bowl. It's holding all that dough up there on the blade for me, so I might as well take advantage and really scrape down at the bottom because a lot of your flour will get stuck to the bottom of the bowl as you add it slowly throughout. And so I really like to scrape that down and then scrape it off the blade, and then I slowly turn it on again. Still the very lowest setting because you don't want to overmix, just to get that flour that I have scraped off the bottom of the bowl back into my cookie dough. Okay, so now I have my cookie dough ready. So I have a cookie sheet, jelly roll pan, whatever you want to call it, and I've got it lined with parchment paper, and I actually purchased the parchment sheets that come pre-cut. It is such a lifesaver if you are a baker. And I'm just scooping out my cookie dough. I'm going to put 12 scoops onto this cookie sheet, And I have an ice cream scoop, but it's a smaller one. This is what I'm using, and I will put the measurements for that scoop in the notes at the end of the video, so you can actually see and order that if you can use it. But it's a little smaller than an average ice cream scoop, and it makes the perfect size for most drop cookies, unless you're looking for the monster size. But over Snickerdoodle, that's normally not what you're looking for. But this dough is fairly soft but firm enough to hold shape, so I'm just going to scoop that out, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to roll it in my hands to create more of a ball shape, a little bit more perfect in shape, before I roll it into the cinnamon sugar mixture that I've made. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just rolling them in my hands, nothing crazy, just to get them somewhat all the same shape, and to kind of roll in those little fringed edges that the ice cream scoop leaves on the edge, because I really want these to bake into a nice circle shape without any kind of rough edges. So that's why you do this rolling technique. If you're in a hurry and you're just making these for your family, totally skip this step. It does not have to be done. I just like the look that it creates for the Snickerdoodle cookies. And then in the bowl to the left of my cookie sheet there, I do have my cinnamon sugar already mixed together. And I have in there 4 teaspoons of cinnamon and 4 tablespoons of sugar is what I have in that bowl. And I'm just going to roll them in the bowl, but I'm also going to, every once in a while, you may have to shake your cinnamon sugar to even it back out because it will kind of get piled to one side. But this just really makes it good, and I kind of like how some cookies may have a little bit more cinnamon than others. That gives it that homemade look that you want, so you know it wasn't made in a factory. But these are so good, and as you can see, well, I think you might be able to see, as I go through these cookies and I'm rolling them, I have to touch some of the last ones a little bit more because the dough just gets that soft in your hands from all the butter. So it's best to work quickly when you're doing this. All right, last step. So here you see me rolling that gently in the powdered sugar. You don't want to smush it, but you do want to cover all sides. Even the bottom, you want to cover all of it, because as it spreads, when it bakes, you're not sure what edges are going to be exposed, and you want to make sure the entire surface area of that ball of cookie dough is completely covered in the powdered sugar. And then just pop it back down on the tray, like in the picture you see here. And you can see some have a little bit more sugar, and when they come out, they are beautiful, and you really want those nice little cracked edges.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that this is a recipe you can go time and time again to make with your family, especially around the holidays or any time of year that you crave that cinnamon butter goodness. It's a really easy recipe, like I said before. And if you're interested in more recipes like this or more tutorials like this, please check out my other YouTube videos. There's a lot of cake decorating videos, but there are some baking videos. I have a sugar cookie recipe and a chocolate chip cookie recipe on here. So please feel free to check those out. Grab those recipes from the video details and use them again and again. And if you're looking for more information on baking, cake decorating, maybe even thinking about doing this yourself out of your home or out of a storefront or whatever it may be, contact me through my website, www.thesweetshopbybeth.com, and I'll have it again in the details at the end of the video. Contact me through there. It'll send me a direct email, and we can talk more about how I can help you make that next step within your baking life. Thanks for watching.
And before you go, I wanted to add, if you are going to freeze this cookie dough, you're going to want to freeze that after you roll the cookie dough into balls. You can freeze them on the cookie sheet just as they are, where they're not touching. Pop them in your freezer for about 3 or 4 hours, and then you can take them off the cookie sheet, place them in Ziploc bags, and then pull them out when you're ready to bake, and then roll them in the cinnamon sugar before they go in the oven. And if you're going to be doing that, you want to let them sit on the counter on the cookie sheet for about 20 minutes before you place them in your oven, so that the center of the cookie dough has time to thaw a little bit and it'll bake more evenly.